Welcome to the GuthrieAmerica podcast. We sit down with amazing people who do life in our community and who are from here because I believe every story should be told. I'm your host, Heady Coleman. Today I'm sitting down with Cheryl Tarter. Before we jump into this conversation with Cheryl, do you prefer Miss Tarter or Cheryl? Which one do you?
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Before we jump into this conversation, you know, she was a teacher once, so I got to be mindful of that. Before we jump into this conversation with Cheryl, would you please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast and leave a comment or review, all the things on all platforms? I would deeply appreciate that. Cheryl, how you doing today?
I'm great.
When you started realizing that some of your students were becoming adults and they started like, oh, they could call me Cheryl. Like it would be respectful. They're adults, I guess. Mm-hmm. Was that weird to you? Like, what was that like?
I think it was weirder for them.
True. Like, I guess I'm a prime example of this right now. Yeah, it's a little weirder for us to not just be in the habit of saying Miss Tarter or Cheryl. Yes. But now, these days, like I just was at We Shake Hands mentoring program at Guest. Like, we really don't hold kids to that, to call us Mr. and Mrs. anymore. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
I think that if I were still teaching, this is just me, I would still want to be called Mrs. Tarter.
Yeah.
That's how I was raised. And that's what, I grew up with. And a funny story, when I first started as a young teacher, so, I was like 23, and a little boy in sixth grade music, which is what I was teaching, he would come in and he knew me from church and he knew me as Cheryl. And he had to learn to say Mrs. Tarter, and he'd go, shh. And then he was, and I'd say, come on, Andy, you can do it. So that was a struggle, but
Gotcha.
Then you become known as, the longer you teach, you become known as Mrs. Tarter. And Clay was the same way. I think he used to say to his kids, you can call me Mr. Tarter, you can call me Coach, or you can call me Coach Tarter. But I don't really want you to call me Tarter. Just the last name. No.
Oh, my goodness.
So, we all have preferences. And
yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't really been called by my last name, just with my last name, very many times, but it does feel weird to me.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a generational thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think everything's kind of, well, not everything, but, oftentimes things are generational, meaning like whatever was common for the culture at that time, things change and then it becomes common for kids to call adults by their first name. And now for me, it's kind of like, too, like we were teaching kids how to tie ties today. At the mentoring thing, I was like, we had a guy who works for a bank. I said, do you even wear a tie anymore? He says, very rarely. It'd have to be a really important meeting or something like that, but we don't even wear ties anymore. And I'm like, but we're teaching these kids how to tie. I think it's still cool. We're teaching them how to tie ties, but like things have changed so much. And so
that I'm laughing at because I had to learn how to tie ties. Because when I taught Guthrie Junior High choir here, there was a year that I decided it was popular for girls to wear a tie.
Okay.
And they were like a wool or something or some kind of material. But so I got ties for the boys and the girls. And they all had to learn how to tie the ties, including me. And that was quite an adventure.
Yeah.
Junior high.
Yeah.
Whoa. I thought, what was I thinking?
Now, so did you teach music at more than different grades? So I know you from teaching in high school.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I taught, when I started teaching here in Guthrie, I taught sixth grade music because at that time Guthrie was in grade centers.
Yeah.
And so sixth grade was at Banner, which is now, a park, but Banner School was the sixth grade place and they had music. And I was their teacher for 2 years. And then I moved up to the junior high and I taught at the junior high. I taught choir for 10 years. And then I went to the high school and taught for 4. And then I started teaching in Edmond. So.
Gotcha. Which one is harder?
Well, there are people that would say there's no way I would teach junior high or what we would call middle school now. because it is a hard age. Kids are changing and growing into themselves, and it's hard age. But I always felt a heart for it, and I loved teaching that age. And I really must have loved it because when I went to Edmond, I taught at Edmond North High School for, I don't know, 7-8 years probably. And then they started Cheyenne Middle School, and they started with it just being 6th grade, and then they grew it up into a full-blown middle school. And I had to decide, and I had to go teach the 6th graders and then go back and teach at North. So the next year I had to decide if I wanted to stay at North or if I wanted to go back to middle school, and I chose to go back to middle school. Now, the difference was I was older. And I forgot how much energy that took. But that's where I stayed, and then I retired from there. And I had a heart for them. Now, that doesn't mean I love high schoolers too.
Yeah.
Elementary music is great, but it's not my niche.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of figured that out pretty early on.
What year did you go to Edmond?
In 1992, fall of 92. So.
Okay. Yeah, so that was my senior year. Because I remember, like, I never took music. But I remember you leaving, and I felt like it was such a big deal. I don't know if it's because you had been there 16 years or that I knew your family was from Guthrie. But for you to leave Guthrie, and I guess maybe because of Coach Tarter and that relationship, whatever, but I really felt like it was a big deal when you left.
Well, it was a hard decision to make.
Yeah.
It was. Clay and I talked about it a lot, and he just saw it as an opportunity for me to grow, and I did. And growth can be painful, and there were some painful times for sure. But I used to say I have a real heart for the kids I taught here, all of them. But certain ones, especially, I'll tell you the ones that really are just I have a heart for still, are the kids that I taught in the junior high. And then when I started teaching high school and I moved up, then I got those kids again. Yeah. So I got to teach them here, and I got to teach them here, and they just became even closer to me. Yeah. They were like my kids. Clay we both used to get asked, well, Coach Tarter, Miss Tarter, why don't you have kids? And we go, we have a lot of kids. Because when you coach kids, you're with them after school, and sometimes you're teaching them in school. And then because I was teaching at the secondary level in choir, there's always auditions and honor choirs and contests and concerts, and you are just with kids a lot. I have a former student from Guthrie that I saw just not too long ago, and she lives in Dallas, and her name's Margaret Dewberry was her maiden name. And Margaret is one of those kids for me that's she's so special to me. And we would laugh, and she would call me her white mama, and I'd call her my black daughter. Because we spent so much time together, you know, because she was a great singer, still is, and, made all state and all that. And she lived kind of out south of town, which is where I live too. And it was no big deal for me to just go pick her up or go take her home or whatever. Yeah. So you just kind of get attached to kids. And there were a few times that we had boys that stayed at our house that were runners for Clay. One was Kenny McDonald. Kenny's family had a fire, and they lost everything, and the kids had to be farmed out. And Kenny came and lived with us for 6 months. And it was great having Kenny because he was just a good kid, and he was a huge help to Clay. That particular year was the one year that Clay was the athletic director. And he said, "This is not for me." After that 1 year, and it wasn't. That was just not. He needed to.
What year was that? I never knew he was the athletic director.
It was 1986.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was a hard year.
That was the same year. So you had. What year did Kenny graduate? 87.
86, maybe.
Oh, did he graduate?
I think
86?
he was a senior, so that would have been 85, 86. I think I'm right. I could be off a year.
I couldn't remember if he and Anthony graduated together or not. I couldn't remember. But Anthony graduated 85, 86, somewhere in there. So yeah. Wow.
So anyway, all of that to say, kids, are just part of us growing up, And then I can tell you the story about how one 16-year-old Edmond kid came to be our daughter.
Did y'all adopt her?
We never formally adopted her. I talked to the high school counselor, and at that point, it didn't seem to be to her benefit to do that. But she's my kid.
Yeah.
Lynn is 42 now, and she's a mental health counselor, and just does a great. She's
Is she in the area, or
she actually? What's really funny is her main office is in Oklahoma City. That she works for Cornerstone Counseling, and they have an office up here. So last year, she's into her second full year of being a full-time counselor, fully certified. And she said, "You're not going to believe this. They have offices in Guthrie, and I'm going to be up there a day or two a week." And then she said, "And what's funny is I have some kids in school that I will be seeing." I said, "Oh, so you're working for Guthrie Public Schools?" Wouldn't Clay just think that's a riot? Because he used to tease her when she got a PR degree from OSU, and she utilized different aspects of it, but he would tease her and say, "You just need to go get your certification. You could be a teacher." And she'd go, "Nope, Dad, nope. And yet now here she is. She's walked a few hallways and and he's just up there laughing, I think, and going, "See, I told you you'd be in school." Anyway, so she's my daughter, and she loved Clay, and we both miss him a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you end up? When did you fall in love with music? Like,
I think I've always loved music. I'm not one of those people who can remember details of every little thing when they're growing up, but I remember being pretty young and getting a little record player for Christmas. And I would play records all the time and sing. And it was Christmas time, so one of my favorite records to play was that Chipmunk Christmas song. I probably drove my parents nuts. But and so I probably was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and then in second grade I started taking piano, and then we were very involved in church, and I sang in the children's choir at church, and then as I got better in piano, I would play for the choirs, and I sang in the church choirs, and I got in band, and was in band in junior high and high school, and I got in high school choir, and I don't know, it's just kind of always been part of me.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite type of music that you like to teach or play?
I like a lot of different kinds of music. I really do. If you kind of knew everything I listen to, it's kind of off the chart, all over the place. It is. I listen. I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, so I have that classic rock stuff in me. And then of course, I love classical because that's how I was trained too.
Yep.
And then I grew up in the church, so duh, and then I've done church music ministry alongside of teaching almost all of my life. So all of that, but then I like jazz too.
Yeah.
And I probably like the contemporary jazz more than even just the real jazz.
Yeah.
Because the real is just so, you got to be into it and kind of know what to listen for. But and then I like when Byron Berline and Betty came back to Guthrie about 94, I think it was, and he started the Bluegrass Festival. I'd never listened to bluegrass. But I knew Betty, and from growing up here, and so I started going to the festival every year and learning about bluegrass. And it's like many kinds of music. There's different styles of bluegrass. Yeah. There's the real traditional, and then there's the kind of non-traditional, which is kind of where I lean.
Yeah.
There's a program on Sirius XM radio that's on the Bluegrass channel that's called Derailed. And the channel is called Bluegrass Junction, I think. So it's kind of got a train, and a lot of bluegrass music has train themes in it. So this program is called Derailed for a reason because it's kind of off the tracks,
Yeah.
But it's really great. It's very creative. So I like creative things.
Yeah.
And I liked it when kids would come up with ideas. Class was never the same every day. It was, you had plans because I'm a planner and you'd have plans, but some days you just go, okay, we're going to do this,
Yeah.
and just kind of go with the flow. Because
Yeah.
I think the bottom line is, as much as I love music, the facilitator of it are people. And so it's kind of like you. I'm all about people.
Yeah.
Clay was too, but it was a different way. It was more introspective, and I'm a little more out there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Good balance there. So you went to school in Guthrie. Which school building do you probably remember the most from when you were in school?
Probably Cotterill, because that was an elementary school. So I went from first grade to sixth grade there. But then they built a second wing, and seventh grade was there. Seventh grade for the whole district, which is kind of hard to believe now. But that's
Cotterill, the building that they're about to tear down?
Yes.
Wow.
So I went to first grade through sixth grade, and then I went to seventh grade there because that's where seventh grade for the district landed. And maybe that's when they started moving things around, because my brother, I think he experienced some of that grade center stuff, maybe in sixth grade. I don't know. And then, like I said, when I started teaching, it was like that. Sixth grade was here, and Cotterill was kindergarten and first grade, I think. But Cotterill was, real my formative years, in education, and had, great teachers there that I remember a lot about. But if I hadn't, you were going to, I think, ask me, like, if you wanted to ask me who my favorite teacher is. My favorite teacher was really B.J. Jacobs at the high school.
Okay.
And she was the choir teacher.
She's the
choir
teacher. Okay. So did she have an impact on you making a decision to go into?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I had been in band, and I was like in junior high.
What were you? I'm sorry. What were you playing in band?
Clarinet. So anyway, yeah, and I was okay. I was decent. But in junior high, I was like the drum major, because junior high band, we marched back then at junior high football games.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, it wasn't anything fancy. It was kind of goofy stuff, sometimes kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a drum major. And then in high school, I was an alternate. And then my junior year, I was a co-drum major. And then my senior year, I was back to an alternate again. But my band director that started me out and was my junior high band director too, he was very influential on my life. And I guess I probably knew I always was going to do something in music, although I probably didn't really think that through. But I wanted to be a band director because I liked him, He was just, I thought he was.
And this was in junior high?
Yes.
Yeah.
His name was M.D. Marshall, and so he went by, his name was Doc Marshall. And so, and he, at one point, he did all the bands, but I think by the time I got to ninth grade, he had pared back down to just doing junior high, because I guess, I don't know this for sure, but I think he was starting to get certified to be a counselor, because when I started teaching at the junior high, that first year, he was a counselor. Well, anyway, when I got to high school, I had a band director my sophomore year who was really good. And then my junior year, that man left and went somewhere else. And the person that came in was not very good and didn't have classroom control. And it was horrible. And somehow BJ had grabbed me as a sophomore to come accompany for choir. And then I got really involved then in my junior year and senior year and choir. And it was kind of like my salvation. Now, my senior year, I had a different band director. So I had a different band director every year. It was crazy. And my senior year, the guy that came in, he was really tough as nails and had to be to get a band back together, But my focus had switched, at that point. thank goodness I was not cut out to be a band director. So yes, she influenced me greatly, and she was a very good teacher. She would always say, "Oh, I'm just not that good of a choir teacher. Jake should be up here teaching." Norman was her husband. He called her, his nickname was Jake. And Norman had a choral music degree, and BJ had an instrumental music degree. Norman was a great trumpet player and great singer. It was just funny. She was always comparing herself to him, and I would say, "You are a great choir teacher. Don't say that. You were wonderful." And she was great at music theory and taught us that in class. And so when I went to college at OBU, you had to take a test for music theory to see what level you got put in. Well, I tested into the highest level, and I got into a class with kids that had music theory class in high school, usually like a 6A school.
Yeah.
And I had to work in my freshman year because I got put in that top tier. But it's because of her and her great teaching. So, yes, she was very instrumental in what I did with my life. And then I got to teach with her a couple of years when I went to the junior high. She was still at the high school finishing out, and she was getting her library certification. So I can't remember when you were at the library. Was she at the library, maybe as the librarian?
What was her name?
BJ Jacobs?
No.
Okay. Well, she was probably still there, and probably you just passed in the night.
Yeah.
She came to the junior high to be a librarian, and then she became my accompanist for my choirs, for concerts and contests and stuff. So, and then we became good friends too.
See, that would be even more interesting. We're talking about students versus teachers and stuff when you get old, but like when they become your co-workers.
Yes.
That was probably really different.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. Well, I don't like there. I've had some kids that went into teaching. Becky Young.
Yeah.
She's not teaching anymore, and she's gone into her family business. But she taught for 20 years in Mustang. And she would always call me Mama Tarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And her kids called her Mama Horton. So I don't know. But you do become like when you are involved with kids to that degree, you do become like a parental figure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because you end up spending more time with those students, than parents sometimes, at least they're in the school, right? Mm-hmm. And so then the trips and things like that, if they were in choir, I can only imagine just the time that you spend with them, and somebody who was really invested in it, probably like a Becky, like Margaret, you just get to spend so much time.
And just like the girl that sent me the message just earlier today about she joined a choir, and I think that was my goal in making kids appreciate their gifts and to use them. If it's just singing in the church choir, or singing on a praise team, or singing in a community choir, or just music's important.
Yeah,
at least it is to me, and I think it should be to all.
To everybody.
Yeah, I'm a little partial. But.
Let me ask you this: who was more passionate, you or Clay?
Oh my goodness. I don't know, because it might be even. He was passionate about what he did. He would say, the fact that he retired from teaching but kept coaching and had championships after that,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then in the latter years, he would say, I just don't know what else I'd do. I said, well, you should do it as long as you feel like you can and want to, and he did. It did change, and the pandemic helped change some of that. But even before that, when he did the little stint in Alva at Northwestern, we would talk about that after he did that one year, and he'd say, I don't know why exactly I did that. I said, I don't either, but I think God had a purpose. And I said, I think you affected those kids, and you were there for a reason. Yeah. And but he just he never stopped learning about his craft. And, he was a sprinter in school, in junior high school. He ran just a smidge in college. And so when he had these runners that he was coaching in junior high track and then he was coaching them in freshman football. And they were pretty good distance kids, runners, and Clay learned about cross country from Jinx. And he said to Paul and Marcus, he said, let's go over there to this meet and watch. And they did. And they came back and the bug had bit. And between those two kids and Clay, they just started cross country. And that first season, I think Paul thought that they were just going to go out there and be gangbusters, They learned a lot that first season. But then
now, what year was this?
That would have been 83.
Okay.
And then in 84 and 85, they won state both years, back to back.
That's crazy.
It was exciting to me to see that happen, because it was so just the newness of it, and we were young, and Paul Dreesen is who I'm talking about, and Paul is just an incredible person.
Yeah,
he was a natural born leader.
Yeah,
and he worked hard. He was a hard worker. He had ability, but he worked hard to succeed. And Marcus Bryant was a good runner, and his was more natural, you know. But just to see how it all worked together and that it was a team, it was just fun. And he would go to clinics and coaching clinics, and read books like crazy, or articles, or just always learning. That's right. In May of 22, we were going somewhere, and he said, I sent a message to Coach Ryden at Deer Creek. I said, you did? Yeah, I asked him what he was going to do this summer, what kind of workouts. And I said, what did he say? And he said, Coach, I probably don't do anything any different than you do. He said, I just thought, you're still looking for, like, what else, what's something, still looking for, let's try something like that was just Clay, And so that's what I'm saying. Up until he died, he just was looking to improve his knowledge and help kids. Yeah. Because that's what he was about. It was just his life.
That's amazing to hear that. Yeah. Like, he's been coaching by this time for a gazillion years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And probably knew everything that you could probably know. Yeah. Based on, and he's still asking somebody. Yeah. What are you going to, but which is just, that's what the greats do.
Which I'm sure Coach Ryden went, well, Coach, you've been successful. Of course, at Deer Creek, Coach Ryden is very successful too. And I just can imagine what his response was when he saw that text from Clay and went, what? Yeah. Yeah. But for me, Clay would say, he saw me working with kids, and he helped me, in a lot of different ways. But he would tell me in my church work, and he would sing in my choirs, and he would say, you are just in your element when you're up in front of that choir. He said, this is you, what you're meant to do. And I think about that, and I think I can be having a struggle or whatever, and I get up in front of the choir, and most times, and I get into the moment, and I think that's God. And I tell my choir, I said, we're lucky because we get to worship twice. We get to worship at rehearsal, and then we get to worship on Sunday. Yeah. So, because that's how it feels. Yeah. To me, and I hope to them too. So I don't know. We were both passionate about what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was like. Did y'all have to divide up the conversation? Like, okay, You get to talk about running for an hour. I get to talk about music. Or did you all find different things when you come together to talk about that wasn't even related to music or
Yeah, I think a little
running?
of both. Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah, when you live to your adult life together with someone, you experience a lot of different things, and yeah, we didn't know it wasn't always about music and sports.
Yeah.
Okay, he also liked sports cars and
Yes.
car
Yeah.
racing, and he influenced me when we started dating, which was in high school, and I was a year ahead of him, so it was going into my senior year, going into his junior year when we started dating. And so then I went to college at OBU and singing in a women's choir, and we were on spring break on a choir tour on charter buses. And he'd say, now, when you go, you need to look for these kind of cars. And he would have a list. And I'd be looking out that bus window looking for, oh, there's a 240Z. Oh, there's a Lotus. And my friends were going, what? Who are you? I said, well, Clay told me to look for this. I mean, so we influenced each other. I think is what I'm trying to say in likes. And Lynn and I were laughing about this not too long ago, that if there were any kind of racing on TV, he's watching it. It could be track, it could be whatever, but it could be car racing, yes, or it could be boat racing. Or I remember one time we were on a trip and we turned on the TV and it was airplane races.
Oh, wow.
And we were watching airplane races, and I'm just going, this guy.
He just loves racing.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what it was.
Yes.
I didn't know.
So it did. I mean, it did affect me. I mean, he won me over because I'm a NASCAR fan. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But on the flip side, he when we were young adults, well, even as youth and teenagers, we sang in church choir, youth choir. But as young adults, we went to First Baptist here in Guthrie, and we sang in the choir. And then the music minister started a young adult group, and we sang in that small ensemble. And Clay had a great voice, and he couldn't read a note of music, but he had such a great ear. And he learned after so many years of reading, looking at music, he could follow the bass line, which is what he sang. And he had a great voice. And so I don't know if you ever heard us sing. Did you ever hear us sing?
I'm trying to think back.
Because we sang a few times, but like in the talent show at the high school.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we sang at some events here in Guthrie that were happening in the 80s. So.
Huh.
So he always sang in my choir, and that was the kind of the trade-off, I think.
Now, which church were y'all at?
When we were young adults, we sang at First Southern Baptist here in Guthrie.
Okay.
And then while I was teaching at the junior high is when I got called to come be the music minister at Noble Avenue.
Okay.
And that was my first time to do that. And Richard Dreesen was my principal at the junior high. And so that's where he went to church.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably how my name got in the mix somehow, Probably Betty, his wife, said, you need to ask Cheryl if she'd come be our music minister.
Well, that's where I remembered y'all.
Yeah.
You're from Noble Avenue.
So,
yeah.
yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I served there like 11 years as the music minister.
Yeah.
And the reason that I stopped doing that was when I went to Edmond. And it was just, I was trying to grow this high school up. I couldn't do it, split my time.
Your focus.
And so what I ended up doing then was, after a few months, I ended up going back and playing the organ at Noble Avenue. Organist I'm not, but I've had to play it,
Yeah, uh-huh.
And then when the music minister at the time, his wife played organ, and eventually she came to that church to do the organ, and I got to move over to the piano, which is my instrument. So.
Gotcha. I'm sitting here thinking about the choir versus band director, choir director, band director. It's pretty similar. Like you're playing different voices, you have different instruments.
That's true. And do you know, my first year of teaching, when it was sixth grade music, the way the schedule was, the lady that had been there before me was more of a band director person. And so she had beginning band, 2 periods of beginning band. So when I went there, my first year of teaching, I taught music and then 2 periods of beginning band. Like, my degree says I can teach that, but I don't know how to play a trombone. Luckily, the trombone players were taking private lessons, and the drummers, I didn't know how to do a rudiment, but I knew rhythm, and so we worked really hard on rhythm. And there was a music store in Oklahoma City that I got the music from, and he was kind and helpful and said, okay, here's what you need.
Yeah.
And here are the books that you need. And I only had to do that 1 year, thank goodness, because the band director a new band director came on the next year and said, I'll take care of that. I'll do that. And I'll say, I'll let you.
You can have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And marching band, I mean, I did march, but Clay used to say when he'd see those kids out there practicing, they are the hardest workers in the school.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of hours practicing.
Yes.
And marching shows are way different than they used to be.
Yeah.
They're complex.
And I thought the same thing, like when I went to college, like the bands, they were, early mornings and late nights. And
It's a
I'm
commitment.
like, they were spending just as much time as any other sport, and as far as their time goes. So, okay, so we got a segment that we're going to go into, ladies and gentlemen. This is called Either Or. All right. And so I'm going to ask you two different things, and you got to tell me which one. All right.
Okay.
It's called Either Or. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Just straight black, or what are you doing?
Most of the time, but I also like a latte. So.
Gotcha.
Oh, but I love tea too, but I'm going to go with coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Really? Is it bad? Like,
well, I had to be an early bird all my life, but because I was a teacher, but I stay up too late sometimes.
Beach vacation or mountain?
Mountains.
The mountain retreat, huh?
Yep.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Have you ever had cats?
No.
Cats are the worst. Sorry. Dogs, I'm not an animal person in general, but cats tear up your house, like their claws and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, if our kids did the stuff that our cats do, we would, but no, the cats. Okay. Netflix binge, never mind. I'm sorry for getting on my cat binge. To all you cat lovers, I love you cats. I love cats. Netflix binge or reading a book?
Reading a book.
What kind of books are you into?
I like things that help me grow.
Okay.
So a lot of it, more recent years, was just more geared to more spiritual growth. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just exploring different things. Yeah.
What's a book that you would suggest I read?
This is written by a Benedictine nun.
Okay.
And her name is Joan Chittister. And I've read several things from her, but the first book I ever read was called Following the Path.
Following the Path. Okay. Following the Path. All right, I'm going to check that out.
She is a sharp lady. She's in her 80s now. But, and I just kind of got to know about her in the last 4 years, maybe. And so I have some other books, and then I have a monthly thing. I even participated in the last couple of months in a Zoom call that is done, and she was actually on the last one, which was a real treat.
Oh, wow.
She's not always on them, but you discuss some things that have been sent out, and I think a lot of them are Catholic, of course.
Yeah.
And so then we broke out into a small room, on video, and I had to go, you just need to know I'm not Catholic. And they went, and then they laughed, and said, it's okay.
It's okay. Sorry. Did you need to be familiar with the Catholic approach? Okay.
No.
Because the conversation was just general.
It's all about spiritual things.
Yeah.
No.
Good. Sweet or savory?
That's hard, but probably sweet.
City life or countryside?
Ooh. Guthrie is kind of some of both, and I live out on an acre, so I guess I'll go with country.
Now, did you grow up on a farm?
No, but we had farms. My family, mom and dad both, grew up on farms, and so we grew up riding horses.
Okay.
So we kept them on, sometimes down at the fairgrounds, but we also had neighbors that let us keep them. And then my dad farmed on the side too. When, my mom worked for the agriculture department. So probably just country.
I guess I've only known your mom as a real estate agent,
She had a career before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long did she do real estate?
30 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. I thought it was a long time.
And then that's what I'm saying.
But she retired at 90, so. Wait. So she started a whole new career at 60.
Yes.
That's crazy.
I know.
That is so crazy.
I know.
And I mean, I feel like she probably could have kept going. No.
She just retired about 2 years ago, and she just had a big birthday. So
yeah.
And she started when she was 62. She started in
62.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I know.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Introvert or extrovert?
Ooh. I don't see myself as an extrovert, but I am a people person.
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
So I think I'm more introvert, but I do like people.
Yeah. Yeah. Winter or summer?
Why couldn't it be spring or fall? No. I don't know. I don't like the heat anymore. So I guess I'll go with winter. Although I do like being out in the summer. No, I'll say summer.
That's a great point, though. Why not? I think people would have a better chance of answering this if you said spring or fall.
Yeah, and I've always wondered. I was born in the spring, and I kind of like spring.
Yeah.
Clay was born in the fall, and he always liked fall.
Huh.
I don't know if there's somebody should do some research on that.
I was born in June, but the summer doesn't start until June 21st, right? When is June?
Something like that.
Like something like that. So, but I'm like this. Like once one season comes, I'm like, okay, maybe I do like summer. Because when it got cold the other day, I was like, man, I was kind of wanting winter to come because it was so hot. But it's like I don't want this either. So
yeah,
I don't know. But I'm fall. I'm probably fall. Like this is just really good weather. If you can get a real fall, I love that. That's good weather. Classic rock or pop rock? We already know this. Oh no, classic rock or pop music?
Classic rock.
Yeah. Physical book or ebook?
Physical book.
Do you do any ebooks? Just physical. Okay.
I have listened to a few audiobooks.
Okay.
But I still like having that book in my hand.
Yeah. Calling or texting?
All of us have gotten to where we text so much that I probably text more now than I call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like, major things are being handled through text now. It's like, you used to think, like, oh, this is a call. You need to call me. Like, people are, like, I was watching Deion Sanders, and he was talking about, you know, he's now the coach of the Buffs, Colorado, or whatever, D1. Yeah. And he was saying how he and the athletic director of that school, he's like, yeah, we did most of our communication and everything through texting. And I'm like, and I'm sure his contract was millions of dollars, it's millions of dollars, but he's like, yeah. And then once we got to a certain spot, I just handed it off to my agent. And so I was like, wow, okay. Let's see what else I got here. Cooking at home or dining out?
I've probably eaten out more in my whole life just because of our schedules, If I have the time, I like to cook.
Okay.
But I don't like to have to, what am I going to throw together?
Yeah.
Even though,
Yeah. I guess that's true. Like as a coach and,
music
and doing events and stuff.
I had after school stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it just got to, I like home cooked meals the best.
Yeah. Adventure or relaxation?
I'm going to go with adventure. Just because it seems like that's more been what my life has been.
Yeah.
I don't know that I really know what that feels like to do just total relaxation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm a relaxation. Like if we can take a vacation and it's just at home and just do nothing, I think I'm game with that. But I like to get out. Movies or TV shows?
TV shows.
TV shows? What's some of your favorite TV shows?
I like the old stuff. Although I'm trying to get into some new stuff. But I like to watch rerun stuff. Like I'm a MASH addict. I've
Oh,
loved
wow.
MASH for years.
Yeah.
But then there's late night stuff that comes on. Then Designing Women comes on late and on some channel, MeTV or something. I've seen it several times now, and I just still laugh. And I was journaling last night. I thought, I know I've seen this a zillion times, but it still makes me laugh.
Yeah.
You know, and I just am amazed at some of the topics that they, both shows of those two shows that come to mind, that they would address. You know, back when they were on TV, it was like, wow, that was pretty brave for them to do that.
Yeah. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Sneakers or dress shoes?
I'm not a big sneakers person, but I'm going to go with that because I'm not a big dress shoe person either.
Okay.
I'm for comfort shoes. Shoes that are comfortable. Supportive. So I guess that would be sneakers.
Yeah, sneakers. Action movies or comedies?
Comedies.
Art gallery or music concert?
Music concert. I like them both, but the music's going to weigh heavily.
Historical fiction or sci-fi?
Oh, historical fiction.
Yeah.
Not a sci-fi person.
Is there a particular type of history that you find more interesting?
No, probably not. I just, I need to read more stuff like that. I get stuck on reading stuff, like I said a while ago, that just, but, and I like that. And then I like biographies too, about people.
Okay.
Stories about people.
Yeah.
I like to know the backstory.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned journaling. Is that something that you've always done?
You know, I've been hit or miss for a lot of years. And then at some point I started trying to be more consistent. And then, and I'm grateful for that because I can go back and look and like, oh, this is what happened in, you know, this year. I always thought I would have done it more. That would have been fun. But I do it really regularly now. And it's really been helpful in working through grief.
Yeah.
To write. And I pray. I write. Sometimes I've written prayers, and I've thought of late, you know, you need to have a journal for just prayers, and then a journal for just stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because I need one more thing to do.
Yeah. How much do you have? Like, are you a morning routine person?
I try to be.
Okay.
Yeah. My morning routine is that I want to be anyway. I'm reading the Bible through this year.
Okay.
And the series or the thing that I'm using to do that is called Bible Recap.
Yeah.
And so it's been really good. And and so I try to do that and journal. Then if I don't get to one or the other, I'll do it later. And then I walk. I try to walk every day.
Okay.
I don't walk on Sundays. Sundays are a full day for me. So
Okay, yeah.
Unless it's just in the late afternoon and I have some time and I feel like I just need to get out. But I try to just make it's good for me. I feel better when I walk.
Yeah.
And I was real hit or miss. And then when Byron Berline died and I went over to see Betty, she said, well, why don't you come walk with Sue and I? Sue was another friend. So I would meet at Betty's house. She lives over by Highland Park, and we would go walk in Highland Park. It was a great place to walk. And I did that all year. And just most days, not every day, but most days, not knowing that was going to be, when Clay died, then the next year, it was just like, I had just walked that journey with Betty.
Yeah.
And here I am in that place,
Yeah.
And so then the next year, we walked and it was, I know that God, again, had that put that in place for me as a way to deal with things. And so walking is important, and I know I feel better, and I mostly walk in my neighborhood, which is out, Cole Edition. So
yeah, I as I get older, I was talking to my brother-in-law Kenny Brooks the other day about walking. I was like, is it that we're getting older, or do we just enjoy? Like we're talking about how much we enjoy going for walks, and so he and I try to do like 3 miles every day. It's about 60 minutes. It's just a great way to start the day. So I just get up in the mornings. I just go for a walk and then come home and start doing some other things that are part of my routine and stuff. So, but yeah, walking I think is really good.
Well, and being outside.
Yeah.
And then, but so in last March, I went to a retreat over in Eastern Oklahoma, and it was kind of a spiritual nature retreat kind of thing, and where I learned about an app for birds that you can do on your phone, and you just turn it on, and it'll start registering what birds are chirping. And I was going, oh, look at all these birds out here.
Wow.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I had already kind of started listening for some birds just from walking in the park, especially cardinals and mockingbirds. And anyway, I've learned more about birds. So here's a funny story. Just before I came in here, I looked out my back door window, and there's a roadrunner. And there was one that came to visit this summer. And I snapped a picture of him this summer, and then I went out and it walked up on my house, and I thought, what in the world? I look out today, and there's the roadrunner looking in my door again. Oh, he's back. I didn't have my phone with me. I couldn't take a picture very quick. So I went out and I saw him, and he's just like looking back, and then he took off running. But anyway, just being aware of nature is great.
Yeah. How many siblings do you have?
Just Dennis.
Just the two of you. Mm-hmm. You the older, or is he?
I'm the older sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
So y'all grew up together. Were y'all like, and how far apart are y'all? 5
years apart.
Oh, okay. So there's a decent gap.
Yeah, just enough to be annoying. It was, yeah. Backseat on the few little vacations we would take. We never went really far, but he's on my side. She's touched me. Just am I going to have to pull this car over? I mean, we were it. Typical.
Yes.
But no, he was ornery. But yeah, he's a good brother.
Yeah. That's good. Tell me how I know you all went to school together, you and Clay, but like, how did y'all end up? Were y'all friends and it turned into more, or how did that happen? Did he hit on you? Did he write you a note?
Actually, we met. He moved to Guthrie for the second time. I didn't know him the first time, but his sophomore year, so it would have been my junior year. He moved from Yukon, and they went to First Baptist Church where I went, and I remember knowing of him my sophomore year. He was a football player, and so he was somewhat involved in the youth group, but not heavily. But then the next year he started coming more, I think, and so we actually met at church camp.
Okay.
I mean, that's where we got to know each other.
Yeah.
So we started dating or going together or whatever you want to call it.
At church camp?
Yeah, which means that you're sitting by each other, That's about it. So we came back, and that was in the middle of summer, and his family went on vacation for a couple of weeks, and then he came back, and it was before football started, so I don't know, sometime in probably late July. And so we were supposed to have a date, and I don't know, we were probably just going to go eat pizza or something. I don't know. He comes to my house, and there's two guys with him, and I'm just going, what in the world? And so he came to the door, and he said, so Keith and Steve came up from Yukon to visit, so they're here with me. I went, what? Okay. So we went, I don't even know if we went and ate somewhere, and then he's just driving them around showing them Guthrie. And they're like giving him the business. So the next day.
So wait, is this y'all's date? Like, they're on your date and you're driving them around?
Yeah, that was it.
This is the first date?
Yes.
Okay.
So then, like the next week, we were going to go to a youth rally over in, I don't know, Kingfisher or somewhere. And so he shows up to pick me up, and there's another guy. And this is a guy from his church where they'd gone to church in Bethany when he lived in Yukon. His name was Bob. And here's Bob. And he says, Bob showed up, so he's going to go with us. Okay. So we go get on the bus and go to the youth rally. So it just kind of was a funny joke, and that, these guys, how'd they know? I don't know. I never knew how they just kind of appeared, but because Clay did not plan that. It just happened.
Yeah.
But Clay became. It's this funny because I think about this now. And Lynn, my daughter, her birth mom, who's Vietnamese, and her husband came to visit a few years ago, and they showed up, and so we met them and took them to dinner, and here we are in our vehicle, and Clay's driving them around Guthrie. That was his go-to, like to drive them around Guthrie and show him stuff.
What was his thing to show him? Like Sonic? What is it? Like we got 2 Sonics? What does he show him?
Well, for Lynn's mom, it was the old children's home, that has been renovated, and how neat that was.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know. Now, the 2 boys that came the first day, we went by the cemetery because there was supposedly a glowing tombstone.
Oh.
And so we come pull up out, we didn't even drive in. I don't know that you could, and we're stopped, and I guess we're supposed to be looking for the tombstone. And the next thing I know, these 2 boys have jumped out and jumped over the fence and are looking for. I just looked at Clay and went, "What's going on here?" He said, "I don't know."
Clay would have been right with him if you weren't there with him. That's probably what it was. That's
my goodness!
You were getting to see what Clay's like with his
that
friends.
That is not him. But anyway, and I just think those boys, they knew that he was outside of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah, that is so funny. Yeah, I'm thinking about, like, I wasn't around in the 60s, late 60s, but I'm like, what was in gut? Like, we barely have.
Where was the cemetery that had the glowing tombstone?
Now, we're going to have to go look for it. If anybody knows, if you're listening and you know about the glowing tombstone, tell us. I would imagine it's still glowing.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
At night, we're going to go look for the glow. Did y'all ever do cow tipping?
Cow tipping?
Yeah, was that a thing? Like cow tipping where you go, supposedly at night, cows sleep standing up, and you would go push them over?
No.
Y'all never
And
did.
I've been around a lot of cows. Not done that. No.
Well, let me just say, I've never cow tipped either. And so I don't even know if it's true. But if you haven't heard it.
Well, I'll have to ask Dennis.
Yes. He would
He'll know.
Yes. Tell him he needs to come on so he can tell us on the podcast.
Anytime I know something, Dennis. All kinds of stuff. Dennis knows. Yeah. Sometimes you just don't want to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, so you all date for a little while? When did he decide to? What did it look like to?
So then, when I left to go to college, he was still a senior in high school. So that was a different time, and he didn't come to OBU. He started out at UCO and then did a year and a half at OSU, and then I graduated. We decided to get married, and he finished back up at UCO, and so it's kind of interesting that we kept that relationship going long distance, during college. And I would a few times call and say, this was when he was at OSU, my car has a flat tire. Can you come fix it? So he would drive from Stillwater to Shawnee.
Yeah.
And fixed my tire.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
he would try to come to, concerts and things like that. And my mom would too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So we got another segment. You ready for this? Mm-hmm. This is called Pass or Answer. So you can just pass on or you can answer. Okay. What's your go-to social media platform?
It's been Facebook for better or worse. Trying to do a little more Insta, but I don't do TikTok, and I don't. Yeah, I just kind of tried to back away from it.
Just all of it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a book? You just suggested a book to me, but do you have a book you most suggest to others outside of the Bible?
Well, no, but I probably could come up with a list if you gave me a time to do that. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How do you find inspiration in the work you do or in general?
I attend conferences and things to help myself grow. There's a conference in the summertime called Alleluia at Baylor University, and I started going to it in 2013. I didn't even know about it, but it is wonderful, and it's a time of renewal and learning and multifaceted for music ministry people in all aspects of music ministry. And there are, sessions to attend and worship services to attend that are innovative and creative and meaningful. And then during the pandemic, I found out about an online source, and I think they existed before that, but then just went online, as everybody did on Zoom, and it's called Polyphony, and it is specifically for music ministers of any, denomination or non-denominational. It's just for music ministers. And so I participated in that, and then that led to, in 2023, I became part of and this was a new thing, a Thriving in Ministry cohort. And it was with people, a lot of them are from the South, because that's kind of where things generated in this group. But there were a couple of people from Texas and one from Arkansas. Been, like I said, lots of people from the southern states. And there were 16 of us, and we met on Zoom once a month, but we met in person 4 times somewhere. And so 2 times I was in North Carolina, once in Tennessee, and I have family. Clay's sister lives in North Carolina, and so those were times of growing, both participating in the Thriving in Ministry, and Polyphony has a conference that they do live again, and I went to that, and it was in North Carolina last year, and this year it's back in Georgia, and so I'm planning to participate. It's in February.
Yeah. And
but that's how I get renewed and inspired. Plus, I read things and just the worship staff I work with are just unbelievable, very creative, and a team that it's just like a dream team.
Yeah,
it just is. I have a pastor that is has a music degree, so plays guitar. So that in itself is different, a pianist who is phenomenal and so creative. Associate pastor who's super creative, she can do anything. Children's minister that is off the charts. I mean, it's just, I'm grateful to be there.
Yeah, yes. That's good. That's so good. Last person that made you laugh or smile.
Probably my daughter. Probably Lynn, because I talk to her a lot.
Okay, good. What's one thing on your bucket list?
Oh, that's kind of hard because I'm having to kind of readjust. And I thought about that. I thought, well, what do you do now? I mean, that's kind of open-ended, I suppose, because really my focus for sure has been in the last 2.5 years to just feel the presence of God. So whatever God puts out there for me to do. So it's real hard for me. I've got to learn to kind of dream. And so maybe some kind of travel.
Yeah.
Because I like to travel and I don't mind driving. I mean, I have driven myself by myself or with Lynn once or twice, 2-day trips, So last summer I went to Alleluia in Waco, and then I had planned ahead of time to go to Santa Fe because Clay and I loved Santa Fe and Taos area. We just love northern New Mexico and central New Mexico. There was a concert, Santa Fe Desert Chorale. It's a classical chorale that performs there and based out of there. And so I just thought, okay, if I plan to go to that concert, then I'll have a reason to go. And it'll be my first time there without Clay. And I knew it would be hard, but I thought, I got to do this, I got to try. And so I just purposely did that, and I drove part way, drove the rest of the way into Santa Fe the next day. And I was just there for, about 3 days, but it was good. And it was good for me to have something to do.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I love that area, but I thought, I really want to go see my friend Alicia in California. One of her daughters just got married and the other one's getting married next month. And then it'll just be she and her husband, Alan. And not that the girls won't be around. I think one lives out there too. But I guess that's kind of a silly bucket list, but that's a bucket list for me.
Yeah. No, that's good.
To go see Alicia.
Yeah.
And then I love going to see my family in North Carolina, which is all, Clay's side, my nieces and nephew, and they have new babies and, just it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to keep up with them online or, we have a family app that they let me participate in. And so I travel maybe.
I heard North Carolina is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
And my sister-in-law and brother-in-law live just east of Asheville, about 40 minutes. So when the hurricane came and hit, they lost a lot of trees. They lost power for 2 weeks. They had a generator, but they were making it okay. But west of there, where my youngest niece, had gone to high school, they lost everything, and then, there were towns that were just gone.
Yeah. So
it'll be different. But yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah. No, that's what I hear. I hear it's very beautiful. What's a hidden talent that you possess?
Oh dear.
Do I need to call Dennis or?
I don't know.
You gonna pass on that one?
I guess. Well, I could. I guess. I don't really know. I know what I don't. I know what I can't do. and it's in my history, but I didn't get that how to make clothes and sew gene.
Oh yeah.
That's not me.
You can't do that.
That is not my.
Yeah. So you didn't make that blouse you have on. I thought maybe.
No. No. I think I could write.
Okay.
But I don't have tons of experience, but I've had to write some articles and stuff, at various times for church newsletters and things, and that I'd have to dig, but I kind of liked it.
Okay.
I don't know.
I can
English
see that.
was my class that I could just, I loved English class. Another influential teacher in junior high. She was actually my English teacher in 7th grade and 8th grade. She moved up, and I got to have her twice, and I loved it. I loved her. So I think she kind of planted that seed.
Yeah.
I never took a creative writing class, but I've kind of wanted to.
Yeah. I like to write. Try to anyway. If you could be any animal, what would it be?
Probably a dog, because I love dogs. I grew up loving horses too.
Okay. So horse or a dog?
Yeah.
Or a combination of both?
I'm going to say a dog.
Oh, you want to say a dog?
Yeah. A horse is going to have to work.
Yes. What is the weirdest food you've ever eaten?
I'm not as adventuresome And for me, sushi's weird because I've
Yeah.
eaten it like twice. And I know it's like all the thing. And I have this Asian daughter who eats all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Willing to eat anything. Mama, do you eat? Have you ever had sushi?
I've had sushi.
Okay. Did you like it?
It was okay.
Yeah. Were you in choir
Quiet.
in high school?
At high school.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
She was.
Yeah. When she was talking about that, I was like, Mom, you know who she's talking about. Yeah.
Jacobs. That's with our CD. With our family CD.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Like one of the first ones?
Well, we only did one. The main one that we did.
Oh, okay. Is that the black and y'all had on the red? Okay. Cool. My mom's talking about, you can hear her, I guess. Can you hear her? Let me know if you can hear her. We need to get you a mic. Here we go. If you could write a note to your younger self, what would you say?
I would say, don't take yourself so seriously. Lighten up. Lighten up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you pretty serious?
Yeah. Yes. I thought, I need to do this and this and this. Yeah. I have friends that Betty Berline was one of them that would say, Cheryl, you need to learn how to say no. I said, I know. And then I work on it. And then I end up going, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
But I think when you're trying to grow in your as a young teacher and you're learning so much and you think, well, I need to do this and then I need to do that. And so it's always like I needed to do more. And I needed to just enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get so caught up in what you're doing that you forget to enjoy it.
Yeah. Just take a step back. Look at everything. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Maybe it just ties back into that, in that you just need to enjoy the time that you have and make use of it. But I don't know. I just keep hearing that. I think it's in the Message translation where it says, "Don't take yourself so seriously. Take God seriously."
Yeah.
You know, and that's just become more real to me. And maybe that happens as you get older. You know, but I heard a young person the other night at a choir rehearsal that I'm participating in, a choir on the singing side, and she was probably in her early 20s, and she said, you just need to remember to have fun while you're doing this. The lady that was speaking was the composer of a piece that we're singing, and she was saying how, you know, people had said, how'd you get to where you are? And she says, well, I work hard, you know, you have to put the work in. And this girl was saying, yes, you do have to put the work in, but you have to be able to enjoy it while you're doing it too.
Yeah. You know, our vision for church is, we said at the end of every experience service, and it's love God, love people, follow Jesus. In North Kids, in our kids area, they do the same thing. They say vision at the end of every experience, but theirs is love God, love people, have fun, follow Jesus. I'm like, what? Why did we take that out for the big people?
Yeah, we're not supposed to have fun. No fun for you.
And so, you know, and so I'm always talking about having fun from the stage. Like, I'm like, okay, how can we have ice cream? How can we have some fun around here? I'm always thinking of something. And I remember somebody says, you know, everything doesn't have to be fun. I'm like, yeah, but that's hard for us. Everything doesn't have to be. I think we got to be reminded often because we take ourselves too seriously. And I think having fun can be a humbling experience. Like, it's like, you know what? This isn't all about me. Let me just take a step back and just and know who God is in my life.
And you think about, or I do, because when you get to my age, you look back a lot and think of things. And what do you think of? A lot of the times I do think of things that were fun.
Yeah.
that were, are funny,
Yeah.
or both,
Yeah.
along with the things that were meaningful. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there has to be that side of it. My friend and pastor that I worked with at Noble Avenue, Larry Stevens, he used to have a picture hanging in his office, and it was a picture of the laughing Jesus.
Oh,
And it was just so great,
wow.
Because I think that we, and I only can speak for how I grew up, but you have this stern, no, you have to do this.
Yeah.
No, Jesus was all about relationships. And
Right.
if you look at, read, you see that, It was about people.
Yeah. Interacting with people, having, yes, I think it's important. So, okay. Do you have an 89er parade spot?
I'm in the parade, Eddie. I'm a past 89er queen. So my spot is in the parade.
How many have you been in?
Almost every single one.
Wow.
I mean, so when I was a kid, we were in the Roundup Club. We had horses and we rode. That was what we did. At one of many things, but that's how I grew up. And so I was mascot when I was a kid, and then when I was in high school, then you do this whole queen process and you try to be the queen. And so I was the queen in waiting. And then my senior year in high school, I was the 89er queen. And that was a wonderful experience for me. I led the parade.
Yeah.
And we had 4 rodeos back then, and on Thursday night and Friday night and Saturday afternoon and Saturday night. I mean, our schedule was packed. And then we had the parade, and the parade started back then at 10 or 10:30. So then the rodeo started at like 2. So you just went from here to there, and it was at the stadium. The rodeos were at the stadium.
Wow.
Yeah. Clay
You
and I
remember
used to laugh because he said, "Can you believe? I can't even believe that the football coaches back then would allow that." I said, "Well, there came a point when that was no more."
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, no, and so we have a past queens. For a while, I rode my horse after I was as a past queen. So the queen leads the parade, and then the past queens would line up behind her, and then as we got older and people didn't, the older queens didn't still ride, then we had a queen's float or queens. We even had a little trolley that we had, and now we have a flatbed that goes behind the queen and the princes, and so yeah, that's my spot. And then when I get back around, I miss I miss part of the parade, but I come back to my mom's building and hang out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I never thought about that. You're in the parade,
yeah. Well, my family was entrenched in the 89er celebration. My dad was the rodeo chairman, and then at the chuck wagon feed, my dad was the auctioneer. He auctioned off the booster button.
Oh, so is that where Dennis gets that from?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a whole story.
Yeah.
And you'll have to talk to him about his auctioneering. Yes, he learned from my dad.
Yeah. Cool.
And Dennis has been doing that now, that auction for the 89er button for, I don't know.
Long time.
Yeah,
long time. I guess I got a couple more questions. What are some of the best ways that you've learned to give back to your community?
Well, I think when I taught here, I did that in the ways of where I shared my students.
Yeah.
We would go sing for things in the community. As an adult, and more recently, I am involved in organizations that do that. Like Lions Club, I'm in Lions Club, and there's things that we do in the community. My ESA chapter, Kappa Theta, we are all about philanthropy. We help with needs for the youth shelter. And then when there was a women's center kind of thing out here, we helped with them, and then we helped with Hope House. And now we've taken on a couple of other projects and are just kind of as needs. And or we've, if it's a seasonal need, like for Christmas or something, we might, donate something for that or help out in some way. But for the average person, just there's lots of opportunities to give back in a community like this. Yeah. And I suppose it's everywhere, but I think we just are more aware, or we can be more aware of needs in a smaller community. Yeah. And you get to know people better. And it's a matter of just taking that step of like, well, I can help. I can take some food to the food bank, Yeah. Or there was a time when I was delivering mobile meals. And that started with Lions Club, where we took a day, and then, Mom and I were doing it. On the third Thursday of the month or something, and then I think it was after the pandemic when we came back together, and they started, letting people help with that again. I was on like a what do you call it? Like a person that fills in if somebody has to be gone. A sub. Yeah. Anyway, and then she would call, Lachelle would call, and I'd go, oh, I can't do that. And so finally I just said, Lachelle, let me just volunteer on a day. Okay. So I did that for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And that was hard to give that up, but I needed to give it up for a little bit. And it just felt like those people were my family, Yeah. Because you got to see them once a week, and you got to check on them and see how they were doing. And you kind of, some are people I knew because I've grown up here.
Yeah. 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 No, I used to do the Meals on Wheels, and same. Like you get to see people that you know and all the things there. So we have a sign. Last question. We have a sign behind you that says "Choose Guthrie." We have them throughout Guthrie. When you see those signs, what does that mean to you?
To me, it means that if there's something that you need, why don't you check Guthrie first? Yeah. Or maybe it means that you choose to support something in Guthrie. And there's tons of things to support. Yeah. People are always needing help with something. Obviously, in my background, I'm always going to choose to support things that are in education. Yeah. Or maybe that are music related. And there's like lots of music and art events in our town, taking advantage of them. I used to say and I'm guilty too of not taking advantage of what is right here. Yeah. And so we have other options. You can drive down the highway, but why not choose here first and support your community?
Right. Thank you so much. Oh, last one question. I got one more question. There's a rumor that you're going to First Christian for music.
You better not tell Spring Creek. Oh my!
Do you know where I got
Ronnie.
that
from? I love Ronnie Fields. Ronnie Fields is great. And he does a great job there. He teases me about that all the time.
Yeah, I just saw him and I was like, hey, I'm about to sit down with Miss Tarter. What should I ask her? He says, oh, I have the perfect question to ask her.
He does great work there. And they have some fun music things going on there.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, I love Ronnie. So thank you so much. I appreciate this. I think this is my longest podcast episode ever.
Sorry.
So that means it's really, really, you did a really, really good job. So if you had any doubts about it at all, you just know that you did great. I appreciate you sharing your story and talking about Clay, who means so much to so many of us and has a special place in my heart. And so just with his coaching and everything. And so thanks for being the legend who you are around here and taking a moment with us today.
Thank you for talking to me. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the GuthrieAmerica podcast. We are on a mission to have every story told of the fabulous people who live in our community and who are from here. The question that I love to end with is, will yours be next?